Taeyong Kim wiped the grease off his hands and stared at the blinking red light on his control panel. It was the third warning this week, and he knew his shuttle was barely holding together. The Starling was old, beaten up, and made strange noises every time he pushed the engines too hard. But it was his shuttle, and it was all he had. At 23 years old, Taeyong worked for Quantum Express, one of the cheapest delivery companies in the galaxy. Nobody wanted this job. The pay was terrible, the routes were dangerous, and the customers were usually rude. But Taeyong needed the money, so he took whatever deliveries came his way. Today's job seemed simple enough. He had to deliver ancient artifacts to an archaeological dig site on a planet called Kepler 442c. The payment was low, but at least it was something. Taeyong pulled up the delivery information on his tablet. The customer was Dr. Valeth, some important scientist studying old ruins. The shuttle shook as it dropped out of hyperspace. Through the window, Taeyong could see Kepler 442c. It was a brown, dusty planet with 3 small moons. According to files, the planet used to be home to an advanced civilization millions of years ago. Now it was just sand, rocks, and a few scientists digging through ruins. Taeyong guided his shuttle toward the landing coordinates. He could see the archaeological site below. There were several dome-shaped buildings and lots of digging equipment scattered around ancient stone structures that were half buried in sand. The landing was rough because the stabilizers were acting up again, but he managed not to crash. He opened the cargo door and stepped out onto the planet's surface. The air tasted like dust and made him cough. A tall figure walked toward him from one of the domes. It was a Thulkari, one of the ancient alien races. The creature had green and gold scales that shimmered in the light, and its eyes were a bright golden color. "You are the human with the delivery?" The Thulkari asked in a deep, rumbling voice. "Yes, sir. Taeyong Kim from Quantum Express," he replied, holding up his tablet. "I have a shipment for Dr. Valeth." "I am Dr. Valeth," the alien said, looking down at him. "The artifacts must be handled with extreme care. Some are over 50,000 years old." Taeyong nodded and followed Dr. Valeth to a storage building. Inside were 20 large crates, all carefully labeled in different languages. 2 robot machines began moving the crates to his shuttle, while Taeyong checked each one against his delivery list. Everything was going fine until the 15th crate. As the robot set it down, there was a loud cracking sound. Taeyong's stomach dropped. Part of the crate broke open, and something rolled out onto the floor. It was a flat tablet made of blue-green crystal that seemed to glow from the inside. "Do not touch that," Dr. Valeth shouted, rushing toward him. But Taeyong had already reached down to pick it up. The moment his fingers touched the crystal, everything changed. The world around him seemed to fade away. Colors disappeared. Sounds became distant. For just a second, Taeyong was somewhere else. He was standing in a huge room with walls that stretched up so high he couldn't see the ceiling. Strange symbols covered the walls, glowing with their own light. He could hear voices speaking in a language he had never heard before, but somehow impossibly, he understood what they were saying. Then reality snapped back. Taeyong gasped and stumbled backward. The tablet was still in his hands, warm against his skin. It was covered in symbols and strange writing that seemed to move when he looked at it. And even though he had never seen this writing before in his life, he could read every single symbol. His heart was pounding. He stared at the alien text, and words formed in his mind as naturally as breathing. Without thinking, he spoke them out loud. The sounds were strange and flowing, like water and music mixed together. The tablet suddenly blazed with light. The symbols lifted off the crystal surface and floated in the air, spinning and rearranging themselves into a 3-dimensional map. Taeyong could see stars, planets, and glowing lines connecting them in complex patterns. Dr. Valeth stood completely still, his eyes wide with shock. His crest, which had been standing up on his head, flattened completely against his skull. "That is impossible," the scientist whispered. "You just spoke Old Celestial, fluently and perfectly." "Old what?" Taeyong asked, his voice shaking. "The language of the Star Kings," Dr. Valeth said quietly. "No one has successfully spoken it in 10,000 years. The greatest linguists in the galaxy have spent their entire lives trying to decode even simple phrases." And you, a human delivery driver, just spoke it as if it were your native language. The holographic map continued to spin in the air, showing routes between stars that Taeyong somehow knew were not on any modern navigation chart. His head felt strange, like someone was pouring information directly into his brain. I don't understand, Taeyong said. I just looked at it, and I knew what it said. The words just came out. Dr. Valis stepped closer, studying him carefully. What exactly did you say? What were those words? Taeyong tried to remember, but the words were already slipping away from his memory, like a dream fading after waking up. Something about a pathway? Or maybe a crown? I'm not sure. The tablet's light faded. The floating map collapsed back into the crystal. Everything became quiet. Dr. Valis stared at Taeyong with an expression that was both amazed and frightened. Young human, you must stay here while I contact the Galactic Archives. What just happened is completely unprecedented. It should not be possible. Look, I'm just a delivery guy, Taeyong protested. I don't know what happened. Can I just finish loading your stuff and leave? I am afraid that is no longer an option, Dr. Valis said, pulling out a communication device. Whether you realize it or not, you may have just become the most important human in the entire galaxy. Taeyong looked down at the crystal tablet in his hands. It looked harmless now, just a smooth piece of glowing crystal. He could see his own reflection in its surface. He looked exactly like he always did, just an ordinary guy in a dirty work uniform who had been having an ordinary day, until he spoke the dead language of the Star Kings. And now nothing would ever be ordinary again. 3 hours passed, and Taeyong found himself sitting in Dr. Valita's research tent. Computer screens surrounded him, all showing ancient alien writing that he should not be able to read. But when he looked at the symbols, they made perfect sense in his mind. Dr. Valith pointed at one of the screens. Read this, he commanded. Taeyong looked at the fragment of ancient text. The symbols seemed to shimmer and rearrange themselves in his thoughts. It says, the crown awaits those who remember first tongue. 3 keys scattered among the silent stars. Dr. Valita's clawed hand shook as he typed notes into his computer. Incredible. Our best scholars have studied that fragment for 30 years and could not translate it. A new voice interrupted them. Then perhaps your scholars are not very good at their jobs. Taeyong turned and saw a creature that looked like it was made of pure light. It was a Cavris, one of the energy beings that help run the Galactic Council. Behind the glowing creature stood a human woman, wearing a military uniform with official government badges. I am Agent Mira Song from Galactic Intelligence, the woman said coldly. You are coming with us, Mr. Kim. Coming where? I did not do anything wrong. Taeyong stood up quickly. That is what we need to determine. Agent Song gestured to 2 armed guards standing behind her. The Galactic Council has many questions about how a low-level human delivery driver suddenly knows a forbidden language. Forbidden? Taeyang's eyes widened. Nobody told me it was forbidden. Dr. Valita's crest stood up on his head. Agent Song, this is a scientific discovery, not a security problem. The moment he activated that artifact, it became our problem, the Cavris said. Its voice sounded like a musical note that made Taeyang's teeth hurt. Old Celestial is classified as Level 9 restricted knowledge. No unauthorized person is allowed to possess it. Taeyang's mind raced. Something felt very wrong about this. Why would you make a dead language illegal? Agent Song's expression turned hard. Because the Star Kings did not just build monuments and temples. They built weapons that could destroy entire planets. And their language is the key that activates those weapons. The guards moved forward with glowing restraints in their hands. Taeyong knew he had to make a choice right now. He grabbed the crystal tablet from the examination table and ran. Stop him immediately, Agent Song shouted. Taeyong burst out of the tent into the orange light of Kepler 442c's sunset. His shuttle was only 50 meters away across the sand. He ran as fast as he could, his lungs burning and his legs aching. Energy bolt from the guard's weapons flew past his head, missing him by inches. He could hear shouting behind him, but he did not look back. 20 meters to the shuttle. then 10. He slapped his hand against the door panel and dove inside as it opened. The lights flickered as he scrambled to the pilot's seat. His fingers flew across the controls, starting the engines. They coughed and sputtered before finally roaring to life. More energy bolts hit the outside of his shuttle. Warning lights lit up all over his control panel. Taeyong pulled the flight control stick hard, and the Starling lurched into the air. The engines screamed in protest, but they worked. The archaeological site fell away below him. On his sensor screen, he saw 2 pursuit ships launching from the landing pads. They were much faster than his old shuttle. "This is Galactic Intelligence. Power down your vessel immediately, or we will destroy you," a voice said over his radio. Taeyong's hands shook as he tried to program a jump to hyperspace. The Starling was old and slow. The pursuit ships would catch him in just a few minutes. The crystal tablet sat on the seat next to him, glowing softly. Without thinking about why, Taeyong touched it again. The symbols burst into light. But this time, he did not just see a star map. He understood it. He could see routes through space that should not exist. Shortcuts between stars that modern ships said were impossible. His fingers moved across the navigation controls, entering coordinates that appeared in his mind. They felt like memories, but they were not his memories. They belonged to someone else, someone ancient. "What am I doing?" he muttered to himself. "I don't know how to do this." But somehow he did know. The knowledge was just there in his head, as natural as knowing how to breathe. He engaged the hyperspace drive. Reality twisted and bent around his ship in a way that made his stomach feel sick. When the Starling dropped back into normal space, Taeyong found himself in a part of the galaxy he did not recognize. His sensors showed no pursuit ships, no galactic intelligence, just empty space, his broken shuttle, and the glowing artifact. His radio crackled with static, then a new voice came through. "Unknown ship. This is the independent freighter Dawn Runner. You just appeared out of nowhere using a hyperspace route that does not exist on any navigation chart. Who are you running from?" Taeyong hesitated. Should he trust a complete stranger? But what other choice did he have? "This is Taeyong Kim. I need help. Please." There was a pause. "Well, Taeyong Kim, you are lucky. I happen to like helping people who are running from the government. I am sending you docking coordinates. And you better have an interesting story to tell me." A ship appeared on his screen. It was a medium-sized freighter with mismatched metal panels on its hull and what looked like illegal weapons attached to it. The ship was called the Dawn Runner. Taeyong looked at the crystal tablet again. It was still glowing in the darkness of his cockpit, pulsing with a soft blue light. What had he gotten himself into? Just this morning, he had been a simple delivery driver worried about paying his bills. Now the government was chasing him. He could speak an ancient dead language, and he was about to dock with ship owned by someone who admitted to helping criminals. His old life was gone. There was no going back to making simple deliveries and worrying about engine repairs. Everything had changed the moment he touched that crystal tablet. Taeyong took a deep breath and guided his shuttle toward the Dawn Runner. Whatever was happening to him, whatever the Star Kings had done to humanity, he needed to understand it. And right now, this mysterious stranger was his only hope. The docking bay doors of the Dawn Runner opened, and Taeyong flew his shuttle inside, not knowing if he was flying toward help or even more danger. The pilot of the Dawn Runner was named Aaron. She was a Zafrani, an insect-like alien with sharp, intelligent features and large compound eyes that reflected light like dozens of tiny mirrors. Her mandibles clicked softly as she listened to Taeyong's story. "Let me understand this correctly," Aaron said, leaning back in her chair. "You suddenly learned a language that has been dead for 50,000 years. The Galactic Council wants to arrest you, and now you are flying around the galaxy with a priceless Star King artifact and a shuttle that looks like it should have been scrapped 20 years ago." "Yes, that is exactly what happened," Taeyong admitted. They sat in the common area of the Dawn Runner. Taeyong had docked his shuttle in her cargo bay an hour ago. The crystal tablet rested on the table between them, dark and quiet now. "You are either incredibly lucky or incredibly unlucky," Aaron said. Her antennae twitched thoughtfully. "Why would the Council make old Celestial illegal? Languages are just academic subjects. They are not dangerous. Agent Song said something about Star King weapons. Taeyong replied, "That is the official story, yes. But I have worked with enough scientists to hear the rumors." Aaron's eyes gleamed with interest. The Council does not want anyone learning Old Celestial because of what it might reveal about humans. What do you mean? The Star Kings disappeared 50,000 years ago, correct? Do you know what else happened 50,000 years ago? Aaron leaned forward. Humans suddenly started developing advanced thinking abilities. Language, tools, art, culture. Most species take millions of years to evolve those things. Humans did it almost overnight in evolutionary terms. Taeyong felt a chill run down his spine. You think the Star Kings did something to humans? I think the Council has been hiding that possibility for a very long time. Aaron tapped the crystal tablet with one of her clawed fingers. And you just became living proof that humans are connected to the Star King somehow. Before Taeyong could respond, loud alarms began blaring throughout the ship. We have company. Aaron jumped up and ran to the cockpit. 3 ships just appeared. My sensors say they are galactic intelligence vessels. Taeyong cursed and followed her. On the tactical display, he could see 3 sleek attack ships moving into formation around them. Freighter Dawn Runner, this is galactic intelligence. You are hiding a fugitive. Give him to us now or face criminal charges. A voice said over the radio. Aaron's hands flew across the controls. Strap yourself in. This is going to be rough. The Dawn Runner turned sharply, its engine screaming. Energy bolts from the attack ships lit up the space around them like fireworks. They are serious about this. Taeyong gripped his seat as the ship shook from a near miss. So am I, Aaron said. She fired the ship's weapons. Return fire streaked toward the interceptors, forcing them to scatter and dodge. But more ships kept arriving. On the long-range sensors, Taeyong could see at least 12 vessels all heading toward their position. There are too many, Aaron said through clenched teeth. We need to jump to hyperspace, but they are jamming our navigation systems. Taeyong looked at the crystal tablet, still clutched in his hand. The symbols were starting to glow again, responding to his fear and stress. I can get us out of here, he heard himself say. What? The tablet is showing me routes again. Secret paths through hyperspace that are not in any database. His vision blurred as information flooded into his mind like water pouring into a glass. I can guide us, but you have to trust me. Aaron glanced at him, then at the growing fleet of enemy ships closing on them. We do not have any better options. Tell me where to go. Taeyong's eyes lost focus as he stared at the tablet. Coordinates appeared in his mind, glowing like stars in a night sky. Bearing 273 Mark IV. Enter hyperspace in 15 seconds. That heading goes straight into a gravity well. The ship will be torn apart. Aaron protested. Trust me, please. Aaron's mandibles clicked nervously, but she adjusted the ship's course. The Dawn Runner accelerated toward what looked like completely empty space. The attack ships chased after them, firing their weapons continuously. 5 seconds, Taeyong said. His voice sounded distant and strange. 3, 2, now. Aaron engaged a hyperdrive. Reality twisted in a way that made Taeyong feel like his insides were being turned upside down. The normal blue-white tunnel of hyperspace was filled with streaks of colors that should not exist. They were not traveling through regular hyperspace. They were traveling between the normal hyperspace lanes, through some kind of hidden shortcut that modern science said was impossible. 10 seconds later, they dropped back into normal space. The galactic intelligence ships were gone. According to the navigation display, they had traveled the distance of 3 entire sectors in the time it should have taken to cross a single star system. Aaron stared at her instruments in complete disbelief. What did you just do? I have no idea, Taeyong whispered. The tablet's glow was fading, and the strange knowledge was slipping away from his mind like sand through his fingers. He tried to hold on to it, but it was already disappearing. Those were Star King hyperspace routes, Aaron said softly. The old legends say the Star Kings could cross the entire galaxy in days instead of months. I always thought they were just stories. A new voice suddenly came through the radio. This voice was wrong somehow. It made Taiyang's teeth ache and his vision blur at the edges. Very impressive display, young human. The voice said, "Who is this?" Aaron demanded, "I am Archon Kale of the Remnant Seekers. We have been watching your escape with great interest." The voice seemed to smile, though that should have been impossible through a radio. "You have something that belongs to us, Mr. Kim. That crystal tablet is one of 3 crown keys. We have been searching for them for centuries. What do you want from me?" Taeyong asked. "To help you reach your true potential, of course. The Galactic Council fears what you represent. A human who can access Star King technology. But we celebrate it. Join us, and together we can reclaim the power that the Star Kings left behind." Aaron immediately cut the transmission. "Do not trust them. The Remnant Seekers are dangerous cultists. They think they can become Star Kings themselves. They have killed hundreds of people trying to activate ancient weapons." "Perfect," Taeyong said sarcastically. "So if the Council wants to lock me in prison, and the Seekers want to use me as a weapon, those are wonderful options. There's a third option." Aaron pulled up a star chart on her screen. "The tablet showed you hidden routes, right? That means there is more to find. More artifacts. More information about what is happening to you. You want to go looking for ancient treasure, while everyone in the galaxy is trying to kill us? I want answers. Do you not want them to—" Aaron's compound eyes fixed on him. "The Star Kings left messages hidden all across the galaxy. If you can read their language, maybe you can find out why an ordinary human delivery driver suddenly became the most important person in known space." The first crown site was hidden inside the Veil Nebula, buried within a rogue planetoid that should not exist according to normal science. Taeyong and Aaron approached carefully in the Dawn Runner, their scanners barely able to see through the thick clouds of ionized gas. "There," Taeyong pointed at the screen. "That asteroid—" "That is not an asteroid," Aaron said, magnifying the image. "Look at those angles. That structure is artificial. Someone built it." The structure was massive, made of dark metal that seemed to swallow light instead of reflecting it. As they got closer, symbols identical to the ones on Taeyang's tablet appeared on its surface, glowing with faint blue light. "How do we get inside?" Aaron asked. Taeyong touched the tablet. Words formed in his mind, ancient instructions from the Star Kings. He activated the ship's external communication system and spoke in Old Celestial. The symbols on the structure suddenly blazed bright. A section of the hull opened like a flower blooming, revealing an entrance. "Show off," Aaron muttered, but she was smiling. Inside, the crown site looked brand new despite being abandoned for 50,000 years. Corridors made of polished dark metal stretched in directions that hurt to look at for too long. The geometry was wrong somehow, as if the hallways existed in more dimensions than should be possible. Lights turned on automatically as they walked, responding to Taeyang's presence. "It knows you are here," Aaron said quietly. "It is recognizing you as one of the Star Kings." "I am not a Star King. I am just a delivery driver who barely passed basic education," Taeyong protested. "You are something more now, whether you like it or not." They reached the central chamber. In the middle of the room floated another crystal, larger than the first one. It was shaped like a many-sided geometric shape, rotating slowly in midair with no visible support. Taeyong approached it, and the crystal descended gently into his waiting hands. The moment he touched it, memories exploded into his consciousness. They were not his memories. They belonged to the Star Kings. He saw their civilization at the height of its power, beings of incredible ability who could reshape reality itself with thought and word. They were not a single species, but an alliance of the galaxy's first advanced races, all united by a common language. But this language was more than just communication. It was a tool for manipulating the fundamental structure of the universe. He saw their great works, massive structures that harvested the energy of entire stars, gateways that could open doorways between dimensions, and the Crown Protocol, a system designed to pass their knowledge to successor species when the right time came. And he saw their end, not death, but something else. Transcendence. The Star Kings had evolved beyond physical form, becoming one with the fabric of space and time itself. Before they left, they had planted seeds on primitive worlds across the galaxy, genetic markers that would activate when those species were ready. Humanity was one of those seeded species. Most humans carried dormant Star King DNA in their cells. Only a few would ever activate it naturally. Taeyong was one of those few, lucky or unlucky enough to awaken the ancient legacy sleeping in his genes. The vision faded. Taeyong gasped and stumbled backward. Aaron caught him before he fell. "What did you see?" she asked urgently. "Everything," he whispered. "The Star Kings did not die. They evolved into something higher, and they left humanity as their chosen successors. Does the Council know this? They have suspected it for thousands of years. That is why they have been keeping humans on the edges of galactic society, suppressing us. They are terrified of what we might become." Before Aaron could respond, alarms shrieked through the ancient facility. "We have incoming ships." Aaron checked her handheld scanner. Multiple vessels, both galactic intelligence and remnant seekers. They ran back through the twisting corridors. Through the transparent sections of the structure, Taeyong could see ships converging on the crown site from all directions. Energy weapons lit up the nebula like lightning in a storm. "They followed us," Aaron snarled. "We led them right to it." They reached the Dawn Runner and launched immediately, but enemy ships were already blocking their escape route. A massive seeker vessel, covered with weapons, moved to intercept them. Archon Kale's distorted voice filled the radio. "You cannot run, Mr. Kim. You have 2 crown keys now. Give them to us, and we will let you live." "Never," Taeyong shouted back. Energy beams lanced through space. Aaron dodged desperately, but the Dawn Runner was not built for heavy combat. They were outgunned and outnumbered. Taeyong held both crystal tablets in his hands, feeling their power resonating with each other like musical notes in harmony. Knowledge flowed into him. Not just language anymore, but Star King technology, ship designs, weapon systems, and something else, something powerful. "Aaron, get us close to that seeker ship," he said. "Are you insane? They will destroy us," she shouted. "Trust me, please." Aaron cursed in 3 different languages, but changed course. The Dawn Runner accelerated directly toward the seeker vessel, which immediately opened fire with everything it had. Taeyong closed his eyes and spoke in Old Celestial. But these words were not just language. They were commands to reality itself, instructions to the fundamental fabric of the universe. The space around the seeker ship bent and twisted. Its weapons misfired, energy beams curving back on themselves like boomerangs. The ship's engine sputtered and died, all its systems overwhelmed by technology they could not understand or defend against. The galactic intelligence ship scattered in panic. Whatever Taeyong had just done frightened them more than any conventional weapon ever could. "Go now!" Taeyong gasped, his whole body shaking. "I cannot hold this for long." Aaron engaged the hyperdrive. Reality twisted, and they jumped away. Hours later, floating in empty space between stars, Aaron stared at Taeyong with new respect mixed with new fear. "You just disabled a capital warship by speaking at it, by using words." "I channeled the power from the tablets," Taeyong explained, looking at his trembling hands. "The Star Kings can manipulate reality through their language. That is what Old Celestial really is. Not just words, but fundamental commands that the universe has to obey. And you can do that now. A little bit, maybe more with practice." He met her eyes. "There is one more crown site, one more key. If I find it, I can access the central throne, the place where the crown protocol can be fully activated." "What happens if you activate it?" "Every human with dormant Star King genetics will awaken. Millions, maybe billions of people across the entire galaxy. Humanity will finally become what the Star Kings always intended us to be. And the Council will lose their monopoly on power forever." Taeyong smiled grimly. "That is why they are so desperate to stop me." Aaron's antennae twitched thoughtfully. "Then we better find that 3rd key before they do." The final crown site was not in normal space at all. It existed in a pocket dimension that the Star Kings had called the Nexus Vault, a place between places that only those who could speak the ancient words could even see. Taeyong stood at the coordinates indicated by the 3 crystal tablets, which had now merged into a single glowing sphere of light in his hands. Behind him, Aaron monitored the sensors of the Dawn Runner with growing concern. "I am reading massive spatial distortions," she said nervously. "It looks like reality itself is tearing open." Taeyong spoke in Old Celestial. The words echoed with power that seemed to make the stars themselves pause and listen. Space folded in on itself. A doorway appeared, but it was not a physical door. It was a break in the fabric of the universe itself. Through it, Taeyong could see a structure that hurt his eyes to look at directly. The central throne, suspended in an impossible space filled with crystallized time and frozen light. "I am going in," Taeyong said firmly. "Not alone." Aaron stepped beside him. "Whatever happens in there, we face it together." They stepped through the doorway into madness. The Nexus Vault defied all description. Corridors twisted through dimensions that should not exist. Time flowed differently in each chamber. They could see their own future and past selves walking on adjacent paths, like reflections in broken mirrors. The architecture was pure thought made solid, ideas given physical form. And at the center of it all, the throne waited. It was made of living starlight, a seat that seemed to exist in all possible universes at the same time. Around it floated countless data crystals, each one containing the accumulated knowledge and wisdom of the Star Kings. Taeyong approached it slowly, drawn by a force he could not resist and did not want to. "Beautiful, is it not?" He spun around fast. Archon Kale stood behind them, a Thulkari whose scales were covered in crystalline growths that pulsed with stolen Star King technology. His eyes gleamed with madness. "How did you get here?" Taeyong demanded. "I have spent my entire life studying the Star Kings," Kale said. His voice was filled with obsession. "I knew you would lead me here eventually. The Council lacks vision and courage, but I understand the truth. Power must be taken by force, not given freely." "You cannot activate the throne," Aaron said. "You do not have the genetic markers. You are not compatible." "No, I do not, but he does." Kale gestured, and dozens of remnant seekers emerged from the shadows like ghosts, all pointing weapons at them. "You will activate the Crown Protocol for me, Mr. Kim, and then I will claim the power of the Star Kings for myself." "Never," Taeyong said. "Then your friend dies first." A seeker pressed an energy weapon hard against Aaron's head. Taeyong's mind raced desperately. He could feel the throne's power calling to him, offering knowledge and abilities beyond human imagination. But if Kale controlled it, he would use it to destroy and conquer. The damage would be catastrophic, unless there was another way. "All right," Taeyong said slowly, pretending to surrender. "I will do it. I will activate the throne." "Taeyong, no." Aaron struggled against the seeker holding her, but it was useless. He approached the throne and placed both hands on its glowing surface. The Crown Protocol awakened instantly, flooding his consciousness with overwhelming information. He could see every single human in the galaxy who carried dormant Star King DNA, millions upon millions of lights, waiting to be awakened. He could see the Council's centuries of careful suppression, all the truth they had hidden from humanity. And he saw a choice that the Star Kings had built into the system. Full activation would awaken every human immediately, whether they were ready or not. It would reshape galactic society overnight, elevating humanity to a position of supreme power they might not be prepared to handle responsibly. Partial activation would remove the Council suppression fields, but leave the choice to each individual human. They could seek awakening if they wanted it, or remain as they were. Free will instead of forced evolution. Kale senses hesitation. "Activate it fully. Do it now or she dies." Taeyong made his choice in that moment. He activated the Crown Protocol, but only partially. The throne exploded with blinding light that filled the entire Nexus Vault. Throughout the galaxy, suppression fields that the Council had maintained for thousands of years went dark and silent. Star King knowledge became accessible to any human who actively sought it, but it was not forced upon anyone. "What have you done?" Kale shrieked in rage and disbelief. "That is not full activation. You have ruined everything." "No!" Taeyong said, feeling immense power flowing through him as the throne accepted his decision. This is freedom. The Star Kings did not want to create slaves or living weapons. They wanted successors who could choose their own destiny and path. Kale lunged forward with crystalline claws extended, murder in his eyes. Taeyong spoke a single word in Old Celestial, and reality itself stopped the Archon in mid-stride, freezing him in temporal stasis, like an insect in amber. The other Seekers panicked and scattered as the Nexus Vault began collapsing around them. The Crown Protocol had been activated. The Vault's ancient purpose was finally complete. Time to leave. Aaron grabbed Taeyong's arm hard. They ran through the twisting, impossible corridors as the pocket dimension imploded behind them like a dying star. They burst through the doorway back into normal space just as the vault sealed itself shut permanently, vanishing from the universe forever. The Dawn Runner floated nearby, its automated systems having kept it safe. As they climbed aboard, gasping for breath, Taeyong's communication system suddenly lit up with thousands upon thousands of incoming messages. Humans across the entire galaxy were awakening to their heritage. Some were discovering they could read Old Celestial. Others were accessing Star King knowledge and technology. The galaxy would never be the same again. What happens now? Aaron asked quietly. Taeyong looked at his hands, still glowing faintly with residual power from the throne. The Galactic Council will have to acknowledge humanity's true heritage. We are not newcomers or primitive barbarians. We are the Star King's chosen successors. And what about you personally? He smiled tiredly. I am still just a delivery guy. But maybe now I can afford a nicer shuttle that does not break down every week. 3 weeks later, Taeyong flew a new ship. It was still modest and practical, nothing flashy, but it was built with a combination of modern technology and Star King enhancements that he had designed himself. The Galactic Council had finally granted humanity a full seat and voting rights, acknowledging their ancient heritage. Aaron flew beside him in the Dawn Runner, now his partner in a new business venture helping newly awakened humans understand and control their abilities safely. An incoming message appeared on his screen, a delivery request for Quantum Express. Taeyong grinned. Some things would never change. He accepted the job happily and plotted a course through a Star King hyperspace lane that would get him there in half the normal time. He had been just a delivery boy living an ordinary life until he spoke the dead language of the Star Kings.